This meeting is being recorded.
Perfect. So again, good afternoon, everyone, and welcome to today's session of Launch and Learn series with Prude Inc. For those of you who are not familiar with Prude, it is an acronym for Pride, Race, Unity, Dignity through Education. And it's a charitable organization that supports and provides programs for promoting diversity, equity, and inclusion for newcomers, visible minorities, as well as citizens in the community. And so today, it's a pleasure for me to welcome you all to today's session titled Rental 101 with Liz Song. Well, for those of you who do not know her, she's an award-winning realtor, and she's also a change maker, a community leader, and of course, the managing director of Prude Inc. So Lee, thank you so much for making our time to come and talk to us about this, and you're welcome to our Lunch and Learn series.
Thank you, Christine, for that introduction. And we have, looks like we have a room full of people. I'm very happy to see some new faces and old faces here and joining us. I think we can get strict to the point, and but maybe we'll just give us 3 minutes of a kind of introduction. So as some of you are aware that I am a managing director of Prude Inc., which I really much enjoy to do. My work and with wonderful colleagues that I'm working with every day. But my another hat in the community is I am a realtor, licensed realtor who can perform buying and selling real estate properties in the province of New Brunswick. And I work with my business partner, Janice Prudy, at Exit Realty. Our head office is in St. John. So as my another hat, I am also a good landlord. I own a dozen of units and different properties in the city of St. John. And those properties are in north side, uptown area, and also east side of St. John. So I'm a proud property owner. And therefore, when Christine and we chat about, there are many questions, and then people seem to have wanted to get more knowledge on renting properties in New Brunswick. And, I said, well, I'm maybe brave enough to give some suggestions. I think this one time may not be able to fit all the topics, may not be able to answer all the questions. However, it's somewhere we can get started. Therefore, we call that Rental 101 in New Brunswick. And most of the answers that I give it to you, whenever I do sessions like this, and it's with my lived experiences and with my professional skills and background, and also with my passion and compassion and heart and to help. However, I have to say whatever that I'm giving cannot be held as liable or be responsible or liable to the sources. However, I will refer the sources to Renting in New Brunswick on SNB, Service New Brunswick's website. That's where you find your final answers, and then the rental tribunal that has the final saying on some of the challenging questions. And sometimes they can answer the questions. Sometimes they also have a challenge. They also have difficulties too. We can get it started. Seem to be we have more people coming in now. That's great. Christine, do we normally give people chance to introduce themselves, or I just go ahead?
So what we do is like first we introduce you, and then if anyone wants to ask question, that's the time for them to introduce themselves and then ask the questions. And they can use the chat box, really.
Sure. And maybe I just want to get to know our audiences today right here, because we're delivering online sessions. You never know where people are. So are you all currently in New Brunswick? If yes, can I have a raise a hand? So
hi,
everyone
Amy.
is in New Brunswick. So are we all in St. John, New Brunswick? No, Amy is not in St. John. Okay, that's fun. And okay, most of the people, 95% people are in St. John. So what I talked about later on with questions, probably only based on my knowledge in St. John for rental properties. However, mostly 98% applies to the province of New Brunswick. Okay, So we can get to part one. This is a particular more local, right? Because I have accumulated some links, but not limited to all. There are different sources you can find out rental properties. One thing I have to say, the reality right now in the market is real estate market is really hot, and our vacancy rate is so low. What it doesn't mean is our low inventory either on the houses that you want to buy or the properties you want to rent. So we don't have much of options. And what happened is we are in what we call the housing crisis. Therefore, it takes you as a tenant or renters extra hours and extra energy to search for the appropriate rental properties that fits to your needs and your family's needs. And then I understand it's extremely difficult, but you have to start earlier. What I always recommend for people to do is do not wait till the last minute. If you have friends coming in from other provinces, from other country, you need to act 90 days and 60 days ahead of time and put the words out. Now, some people may ask, how do we start it? If you have friends locally, reach out to your friends. You have an employer that you will be coming to work with, reach out to your employers. That way they can get the words out. One thing is good in the maritime provinces, in St. John, people love to help. So your future colleagues and your friends will get the words spread out. Sometimes they will send it to you with possible apartments or property. Apartments might be coming up, right? Some people reach out, say, Lee, I will need a rental, 2-bedroom or 3 bedrooms in 60 days. I will say currently I don't have anything, but I will make a note that you need a place. So maybe in 60 days that there might be something coming up, or 30 days, we will know, and then I can let you know. So I always talk to international students in this way, any of my friends, and many students, regardless, international student or students, they start they started their school in September. So in August, the rental market, July and August, very busy. If you have friends are coming in to Canada and you want it to be earlier, so start maybe in June. Don't land in October in the midst of everything that's happening, and then you have no time to settle down or to find the good house that you wanted to rent, or good property or apartment. Maybe I'll just use apartment instead of a house, property, and apartment. Most of us might be looking for apartment to rent. So Christine, you can show some of those links that people can start if you are not in St. John yet. There are links will be available for, maybe should I share that? I can share the screen.
Yeah, if you can share it, I'm just trying to find it here, but.
Okay, and
Yeah, so that's in the email.
I couldn't hear you, Christine. Did you see the shared screen? No.
It was your email. Just give me a second and I'll share that for you.
No worries. I shared in the chat. So I just want to show you some of the links, but then we actually shared in the chat room, and you can open any of those. Let's see, we'll open Kijiji. And I often, even myself, post in there, but you can also find out on Kijiji. Most of those landlords locally, even the rental property company, they call it property management company. And then so they will be posting some of their listings right here. And when you go in and you can find out it's a 1-bedroom, 2-bedroom, or 3-bedroom, you needed to read through the ads carefully, because it's going to tell you if it's a utility included, if it's the rent is actually covers heat, lights, heat, or most of the properties for rental in this area, landlord would pay property tax and water. No, most often are the tenant will pay for heat and light. Okay, some of the properties will say heat included, which means you don't have to pay heat, but you may have to pay lights. Why? Because sometimes our heat is through hot water. Oh, I don't want to get into too much details. So the hot water may heat the whole building. So when you are renting one apartment in the whole building, the heat is included. It's centralized heat to the whole building. So you have the apartment, perhaps in that situation, heat will be included. And then you have to pay the lights. Why you have to pay the lights? Most often the lights were powered by electricity. So you will pay the lights. You will pay the electricity bill. And so you needed to pay attention what is on the ad. We can pull one out. Christine, you can click on Kijiji and just can you do that? Or okay, I'm going to.
You're on mute, Lee. Lee, you're on mute.
Figure out. Is this good? Okay, sorry. So can you see the ad on Kijiji? This one, 3-bedroom apartment for rent. Good. All right. So this one is Mystery Lake Drive. So it's east side of St. John. You also want to find out. And then it's the east side, right? My gosh. You can look at the map and find out. Yes, it is the east side. And then you go into the map, find out, okay, this is area. And it's you go for the area first. If you want to look for white side, this will not be available. This is not a fit for you. So I just want to pull this out. Okay, so right here, first of all, you're looking for 2 bedrooms or 1 bedrooms or 3 bedrooms. That's very important. Normally it's for a family. If you have a larger family of 5, 6, and 10 people, you needed to tell the landlord when you are calling them, you need to be honest. And so to find appropriate rental for your family. And overview right here, utility included, you see hydro, heat, and water. I know it's very confused and then people read this hydro. Pay attention to the heat and water. And hydro is electricity. I don't know why in New Brunswick they name it hydro to be electricity, but that's your electricity bill. In St. John area, and we normally sign up our contract. We can talk about this on the next session. We sign a contract with St. John Energy. Now you have to open a new account as a new tenant and to sign that hydro in your name. In this case, you look at it, hydro is not included, right? And heat is not included. Automatically, you needed to know how much heat roughly you're gonna pay, and how much of hydro you roughly gonna pay. My guess, this heat and hydro will mostly pay your heating of the hot water for shower, and also your baseboard heating, because it looks like this is 3-bedroom apartment. It's quite a simple apartment with just baseboard heating. So you just needed to figure out how much roughly. You can ask the landlord roughly how much I'm looking at 1 month I'm going to pay. Okay. And then this utility including water. So don't worry about it. So they are paying the water. In most cases, most of rental properties in this region covers water. Remember I said the landlord will pay water and then property tax. I know in England it's different. Wi-Fi and more is not included. Some will include Wi-Fi, most will not. Parking, there's no parking included. However, you can sort of guess. There's apartment building, likely somewhere you can park. In here it says 0 parking included. Doesn't mean you have no place to park. It's just you don't have a designated parking space for you, okay? Agreement type, this is very important. It's 1 year. So they want you to sign 1 year lease, which means you might have to give a penalty if you decided to end the lease before the year end of your lease, okay? Pet friendly, great. So you could have a dog, but some landlord may put pet limited or limited to small dogs or cats only. And then you have rough size, the size of a square footage. Now, if some people are coming in from the countries with using meters, you can download those conversions on your phone. And this is 999, roughly, I think, 90 square meters. Okay. So furnished. So normally, if you rent apartments with no furnished, it's much cheaper than furnished. Okay. So I would recommend you look for the ones that are not furnished if it's not a pure temporary rental. Second-hand furnitures you can often find out from the market, again on Kijiji or Call for Friends, or go to Value Village and also Habitat Humanity on Rossi Road. Maybe we can do another session, Christine, on that. So you can find a second-hand furniture that's not expensive, okay? Appliances, this is good. It says laundry in the building. Again, this is in the building, your shared laundry in the building. But they have a fridge and freezer, which is normally you also see stove right there. I don't know, they forgot to put in or not. It's very important you can cook. So you ask them, it's a stove included, or they just forgot to put in. Air conditioning, most places, unless it's high end with heat pump, otherwise you don't have air conditioning. Well, most of us are from places that's way hotter. So the local weather right here, it's like you don't need air conditioning in most cases. Personal outdoor space. Wow, this one has a balcony. So that's added a value, and either you care or not. Smoke is not permitted. And in most cases, the smoke means smoking cigarettes, okay, or any other things. It's not permitted neither inside of the house or on the property outside of building, let's say 5 meters within that close. Okay, otherwise your landlord may not be happy. And then amenities right here, they have a storage space. That's interesting. You need to ask, what kind of storage space? Is it shared, or do I have a designated storage space? An elevator in the building, which is very good. So if the building, it is in New Brunswick, if the building is 3 level and above, they must have elevators. 3, I mean, don't count me on that. 4 levels above must have elevators. Yeah, so this is good. This big apartment building like this, there's elevators. Looks like a fairly nice. I would say this price, and then for 3-bedroom apartment, it is a good asking for $13.99. That is in the current rental rate. And then with this type of a quality, although 999 square footage might be a little small, but it's comfortable living. Okay, and it's close to the Parkway Mall. It's here, property amenities right here, and tells you more. Oh, look, does have a stove because it have to have a stove. Stove or oven, it's the same same meaning. Okay, so that's just give you us a little bit understanding of how you would be looking at some of the details. At this point, do we have questions?
Any questions? Anyone? Well, if you you may want to write down the questions so at the end of the session, then you could share that. So I guess we can continue. Seems like we have a lot to cover.
It might be too much information. You don't even know what to ask. So you can actually stop me at any time you wanted to. And I'm so used to multitasking, I will not be disturbed. So just raise your hand, or if you want to ask any question, I'm all good. Okay. And then we'll go to the part 2, which is the exciting part. It's called renting in New Brunswick. Want to introduce you to this, all of this. Let me just copy and paste, get this to your chat box as well, right? So the ones that who are online right now, you can click on that first link, GNB, and then that's Government of New Brunswick, renting in New Brunswick. Let me share my screen right now, renting. So good. You can hear me, right?
Yeah.
So this is the website you want to get familiarized. Either you want to be a landlord in the future, if you want to buy buildings and then, be a good landlord like me, and you need to study this. And then, or you're a tenant right now, and you're looking for places to rent. And here give you, Christine, when I scroll my screen, can you actually see it goes up and down?
Yes.
Okay.
We
So
see.
tenant rights and responsibility right here. You can click on that and to understand your rights as tenant, and then landlord's rights and responsibility. I'll tell you, I used the website, I spoke with the rentalsman's office, and I worked on cases, difficult cases with some difficult tenants, and on different cases, and then with the tenants tribunal, they were really fair, and then very non-judgmental when they're working on cases. And so those are the two you're mostly wanted to know. But today, what we wanted to, here, find a form. That's where you find a form. In most cases, those are for the landlords, but you needed to know what the form look like. I wanted to talk about it today, about the residential lease, which is the second link that I provided in the chat box. Christine, can you see the residential lease right now?
Yes.
Okay, I just want to make sure. So this residential lease is like a 12 pages, right? But really the last 8 pages, it's a standard policies, okay? The most important 4 pages are from 1 to 4. And we are just going to walk through some of those today, okay? If we can get to the security deposit form or not, at least we go through this. This is going to be the form that you will see when you are signing the lease with your landlord. Very important. You needed to read through this thoroughly for what you are signing. In fact, whatever that you're signing in Canada, you needed to read through. You needed to make sure you read, you reviewed, and you understand what you're signing for, okay? We can go to, say each residential landlord must provide 2 duplicate originals of standard form, and for the landlord and tenant to sign. So you have 2 papers, and so the landlord should provide 2 papers, and both for you to sign. The landlord keep 1 and you keep 1. Okay. What I normally do is I also send my tenants electronic version, and so they have it. But not everyone is, doing that. I found that those are much easier. Another thing, a tip is when you have this paper done, it's better for you to scan it for your own copy. Okay, just so you can save it in somewhere in your email. Section 1, we can go through this. It says the landlord. And the landlord will put in the first name and last name and the landlord's address, either business name or that person, where that person lives.
Sorry,
yes.
Sorry, so we don't have the form up. I can share the form if you don't mind. So we still have the website up. So
okay. Yeah. Let me see. Maybe I can reshare.
Let me see.
Yeah.
Yes. Now we have it. We can zoom in a bit. Yes, perfect. Leon, mute.
Oh, I gotta
Yes.
use this. So the residential lease standard form of lease, and this is available on Service New Brunswick's website called Renting in New Brunswick. And it's governed by the Residential Tenancy Act and by Acts of New Brunswick governed by law. And so this in New Brunswick generic form, everyone's using this form. Well, they should. And so when landlord providing this paper for you to sign, you should sign 2 copies, and one to keep it for yourself and one for the landlord to keep it. And I would recommend you make electronic copy once you signed it, and then save in your email. So we can go through section 1, the landlord. So this is where the landlord fill in the first name and business. In this case, I will put in Li Song, and then so I will put in my address, provincial, postcode, phone number. So basically whatever that's in here, you needed to filling in, and especially properly filling in their name, because you needed to know who your landlord is, who you're dealing with. And so the landlord sometimes employs an agent or representative. In this case, I can put it in, and later on I can point at Christine to be my agent. So basically I could give you 24 hours notice. I said my manager is going into the property for a view. But if it's not checked off, you know, the only permission, the only person who's permitted to enter your apartment will be whoever stayed in here. Okay, it's very important. You know your rights. Here's tenant. That is
Quick
your
question,
name.
please.
Yes.
Sorry, if that box is ticked where you said the tenant, sorry, Lee, this question is to you. Does it permit the landlord and the agent to come into your apartment even though they've given that 24-hour notice? Is it both of them or just one person? Thank you.
It would be the landlord and also the employed agent, because the landlord would always have the rights to go in. And then when you see the form right here, and so the landlord's agent or representative, if applicable, right here, right, this section in here. Okay. Most cases, if the landlords are not local, they would appoint an agent. And you would hear Canada Home for Rent, their appointed agent, or Peace of Mind Property Management, 3D Property Management, Hazen Property Management, and they have a called a property management or Leading Edge Property Management. A lot of those common names you probably heard already. They're appointed representatives. And then, so the tenant, this will be the parts that you are filling in. You need to properly spell your name, first name and last name. I'll tell you why it's important. If your name were not spelled right on the form, you may not get your deposit back, because the provincial government will release the deposit with the name according to the name that's on the paper. Okay, a lot of us have different names. You need to spell out that correctly to the landlord. And to verify that at the time when you are signing the this lease. Your phone number and your email. Most of the case, we don't use a fax anymore. Properly spell your email. So when there's a dispute, if something happens down the road, tenancy tribunal can actually reach out to you. Otherwise, there's no way that they can find you, right? If they cannot find you, there's no way to protect your rights. And right here, tenants wish to provide emergency contact. This is also an option. In most cases, I always ask, do you have an emergency contact that I can call? It's your rights if you want or not. If you tick this box, then you go to section 7 and you provide emergency contact name and phone number. You get used to of providing emergency contact in Canada. It's just say if someone else can answer on your behalf about your situation. Yeah, that part is good. I think it's straightforward. Any questions at this point? Section 2, promises. Basically, this is where you get to some of the details, right? And address, and let's say if it's a 165 Union apartment 1, and then so apartment right here, apartment 1. That's a street. Making sure it says a street or it says avenue, or it's a court, because sometimes those addresses could be duplicated in different places. In St. John, also you want to know, you're renting in White Side and then Uptown, there's a Duke Street West, there's a Duke Street, right? Whatever the streets we have in Uptown, there's a duplicated name of the streets in the White Side of St. John, right? You want to make sure it's King Street East and King Street West. And then, so a type of the premises, you have a house or apartment. In most cases, we rent a house or apartment. And then, of course, some people may have a room in a boarding house or a lodge house. I'll tell you, in my experiences, most of the people in here rent a room. They don't bother with this lease. And it's up to you how you want to do it as a tenant. I mean, it's up to both of you, right? Everyone should fill in the lease. I'm only talking about whatever is the standard practice. But then right now the market is so hot, and then I know it's hard, and it's hard for tenants, and it's hard for buyers as well. But this should be ticked off if it's a house or apartment. And if it's a mobile home, most of the cases you won't get in touch with mobile homes, so I will not talk about it. But then you have a unit in a condominium property. So when you are renting an apartment in a unit in a condo, you also need to make sure who's paying for the condo fee. That's another point. So initial inspection and repair. Only for, this is important. It's residential purposes only. You cannot use it for commercial. You cannot open the business. I'll give you an example. Years ago, I had this person, I think, run into trouble that she started doing hair salon business in an apartment. And imagine if the apartment has a heat or lights, electricity included. You are using the premises and you needed to find out from your landlord. And if you are going to do anything at home, at your rental places, you needed to let your landlord know right away, because that's technically their property. You're only a tenant living in there. If you needed to fix anything and put anything on the wall, or repair a lock and repair lights or paint on the wall, you needed to let your landlord know, and then you get a permission for doing that. So this is initial inspection and repair. An inspection of a premises being completed by both tenant and landlord. Two people should be there at the time that you're inspecting the place. And then on such and such day. That's normally before you actually signed the lease, right? And right here, repairs needs to be completed prior to the beginning of a tenancy and or during the term of a tenancy. Please be specified. I mean, some people, like I put in there one time, I found out the smoke detector was out of a battery. So, and I had to put in there, the smoke detector is not working. I will second day come back to get it replaced. And those you needed to check at the time of inspection, especially if the appliances are included, are they working? Is the stove oven working? Is the fridge properly working? And then is the washer and dryer working? I would suggest some of you can take a videos, right? And then you can also take a pictures. Just give yourself enough of a memory. So if they later on you run into dispute, you say, look, I turned on the stove. There's one stove top. Actually, it's not working at the time I was renting it. So later on you didn't get it fixed. You can still send that video or picture to landlord, said, please get this fixed, or you just know that one is not working. So don't blame on me. Otherwise, I have to pay for it. If the plumbing is working and flush the toilet, say if the water actually go down the drain properly, open the tap water, see if the hot water is running, the cold water is running, say the shower is working, or if the shower head is leaking, you just needed to protect yourself, okay? And also as a references, and you can talk with the landlord right there. For emergency repair, here you needed to ask a landlord who you can contact to. If there's a flood, if the water started dripping, if you all of a sudden have a roof leaking and you need to contact someone right away. If the heat all of a sudden is not working, you need to know who's your contacting person, and then you need to contact that person for your emergency. That's happening in a house or in the rental premises. Additional, so smoke-free, in this case, like in all my properties, I put in smoke-free, like no, I don't want anyone to smoke in or around my property at all. Like I'll put in there, not at all, not permitted at all. For pets, I'm a dog lover, so but I normally put in there pets limited. But we can talk about it. It depends on the tenant and see how nice they are or not. So this one, the landlord or landlord's agent may enter to show the premises to prospective tenants during the last rental period of tenancy without any notice required. This is you needed to have a notice. That's just gesture. This should not be ticked off, in my opinion. Shouldn't even be there. But normally they give you 24 hours, 48 hours notice. Okay, and it shouldn't be without any notice. There should be 24 hours, 48 hours at least, even at the last period, like before you move out. And so the premises are a unit in a condominium property. The tenant agreed to comply. This is always ticked off because you have to comply the bylaws of the condo that you're living in, because that's bounded for anyone living on that property, which you don't damage the common area, you don't kick the lights, and you keep if you have dog that pooed on the lawn, you want to pick it up, and so those are regular common sense bylaws. But it's a good time you check and then with the landlord what you are permitted, not permitted to do. Other additions that including bylaw or rules, this is the time the landlord should specify in it. Right here. And then someone have questions? No? Oh, someone just dropped in. Okay, so this is
yes. I think it's not a question. Amy just put in a comment in the chat. She
That's-
said you should have a copy of the bylaws as well.
Yes, yes.
Thanks,
So,
Amy.
yeah, whatever that they give it to you in there, any paper trail you could have and keep in your hand, just so that to protect you in the future, that you have a full understanding of it. Sometimes they can provide it, sometimes they cannot. But ask for it, and then just to protect yourself, because I know how the reality is in cases. Okay, that's a good advice. Section 3, and length of a tenancy. So, and then this is a tenancy to begin on such day, such month, and then such year, right? And pretty straightforward. And the second one is tricky. So it's a fixed term on ending, right? If it's a start from today, March the 27th, it may be ending on the 1st of April. You know your tenancy is going to be end probably a year after, right? It's a 1 year roughly at least. And then that's your ending date. Now, either one, option 1 or 2. Sometimes it's ticked off right here, which I like to do because I like to take off this one from month to month as landlord, because I think if you don't want to live in here, and then I will let you go, and then we can release from each other so we don't hit each other. And sometimes your rental, now the Airbnbs and then or the furnished rentals, you may have a week to week, but it's very seldom right now, the ones on the market. You may have a month to month, you may have a from year to year. If this year to year is, if this is year to year kicked off, your lease will be automatically renewed. If this is a month to month, your monthly rental is automatically renewed to the next month if I don't get the notice from you in 30 days. So your year to year, I urge people to double check with tenancy tribunal. My understanding is it's 3 months notice, but I can't count on that liable with what I'm saying. But yeah, you may want to double check 90 days notice, and then for year to year lease. In most cases, the property management will take off here, fixed term tenancy ending on such day, and which is a 1 year term. Okay. That's one thing we want to clear out from year to year. I seldomly see this got it ticked off, but sometimes it may happen. Yeah. Okay. That's that. Pretty straightforward. And this is also important. I mean, it's common sense. You need to ask the landlord, like in plain language, what does this mean? And they will tell you. That also counts. The amount of rent payment, if it's what we said, 1350 and per week or per month, in most cases per month, and the first payment is due. Most cases, they're due in the first day of the month. And thereafter payment, oh, okay, let's say we find an apartment and then we want it now, today. And that your first payment is due right now. And you have a cash and you said, Christine, I'm going to offer you on this. I'm going to rent your apartment. And first payment, Christine will say, okay, your first payment is due on March 25th, today. And thereafter, the payments are made on the first day of the month. So your first payment might be, you calculate the days, 1350 divided by 30 days and how many days you have left. And then thereafter, the payments are made on the first day of the month and to the landlord or to the landlord's agent or representative. Okay. And so that's N right here. The landlord for fixed term tenancy, select A or B. This is again for landlord to select, okay? You may increase the rent, but you need to read this, what you're signing for. You may not increase the rent. In most cases, I put in here may not increase because I don't want to increase, but some may tick off right here. Basically, they may increase the rent during your fixed term of tenancy, let's say within a year, but they need to give you proper notice. And then in most cases right now, we should all give a 90 days notice for rent increase. Okay, for the courtesy. No, I see Amy shaking hands.
Amy, how many days is that supposed to be?
So for a year-to-year tenancy, you need to give 6 months notice.
Okay,
Um,
and how,
if it's a fixed lease, it's still 6 months notice. Month to month, you need to give 2 months notice.
see, has that been changing, Amy, since
Yeah,
last year, or
Yeah, they changed it like 2 months ago.
there you go?
They're
Yeah,
wonderful.
that's a good to know. So 6 months, they need to give a 6 months notice, and
For a
for
rent
any
increase.
for rent increase for year-to-year lease, right?
And you're only allowed to do it once a year. You can only do an increase once.
Correct,
Yeah.
correct. And see, I don't even know that because I never change it. I always pick up may not to change. So, but I know the rules have been changed, right?
Yeah,
So, and
they
just
changed
for
them last year
everyone,
and this year.
right, just for everyone knows that right here because it's important. Amy, can you put that in the chat box?
Yeah,
Yeah, just so we know, okay? Year-to-year lease, 6 months notice. When the landlord give you notice, then you know. And then if it's month-to-month lease, you still needed to give a 2 months notice, which is also odd because the month-to-month is 1 month to another. But anyway, the rule is the rules, and then we normally just give it enough notice. To me, my mind was always 90 days, but yeah, that was the old rules. Again, everything refer back to Service New Brunswick Attendance Tribunal because they have the final saying. And if the rules shall also change again, and then they should only give only be permitted to give a 1 increase per year. That I know. Yeah. Late payment fee. Well, this is not entitled to charge a late payment fee or may charge a late payment fee. This is also being filled out by landlord, and you just needed to know if it's late payment fee charge and maybe how much that is. But I don't know if ever I've done that, but it's always good to give a courtesy. In the rule of thumb is I always respected people in the way how they respect me. If people are going to be late, they always let me know. Leave, I caught in the middle of the woods. Now I cannot do anything. I'll be out in 5 days, and then I'm hunting, and no problem. As long as I know, I get a notice. But then if without a notice, without respect, let the landlord know, I guess that could run into trouble. Yeah, and because they could issue you with a notice that you're late, or it wouldn't be so nice. Service and furnish. This is important. You need to know the following services. If the water included, snow removal in your common area, and if it's the heat included, garbage collection. Normally, if you live in 4 units and below, I think that's still the rule that city will pick up garbage, or above, then the landlord will have to pay someone to pick up a garbage. And then it's cable or internet hookup available in here. And cable or internet service means that they have the service. But in most cases, landlord would expect the tenants to pay their own cable and internet. Parking for vehicles, you need to know if you have a designated parking. If you have designated parking, it may allow you to park one vehicle and with your apartment number on it, or it might be 0 vehicle. Basically, this will not be picked up. And hot water is very important. You need to have hot water. So sewage, if it's in the city limit, then it's municipal water and the sewer. It wouldn't be too much worry. If it's somewhere else, you needed to making sure that is available so that you don't have to hook up a sewer line or be responsible for that. You also needed to find out the following furnished right here. Refrigerator normally is. Appliances, that's what it's called. Stove, dishwasher, yes or no, and washer and dryer. If it's a furnished apartments that you're buying, there might be other things. So people could be listing right here, I don't know, computer, normally not. Just so that you know, could be a bed, table, dresser, chairs. And again, if that's the case, take videos and pictures because you need to know the condition of those so that people don't come back and then to bite you for more money or to take it as a way to not give your deposit back. Okay. Are there questions at this point?
No questions, but Amy sent me some messages I'm just trying to put in the chat box. I'm just going to put it now, just so that
Correct.
people, just in case we don't get a chance to the end. Yeah. No questions for now.
Yeah. He said a Facebook, a marketplace, Bumper, Zillow, apartments.com are a couple more places look for apartments. So yes, I said not limited to two, but you know, anywhere you can find out places you can find a place to rent. Security deposit. I mean, there's another form. I know we're running off the time, but I will show you the form, how it's like. And then a security deposit is not required or required. Sometimes I will check off this box. If I know this person so well, my friend, I said, don't even bother. I will check it off. In most cases, when you're renting, security deposit is in amount of 1 month's rent, no more than 1 month's rent. So in 1 month's rent, 1350, and you put a 1350 in here, or maybe less. It depends. Yeah, but cannot be more. Right here, it's important you know, in most cases, landlord will take off here. Tenants may not assign any of the tenants' rights under this leases. So basically, you cannot sub-rent the places. Most landlord will not want you to sub-rent it to someone else. If you do, again, it's a courtesy and a respect, which I done it to one of my tenants. He said, Lee, I have a friend, I'm moving out, but I have my friends who want to take over. I said, perfect. Is your friend just as good as you are, clean, on time for payment? He said, I can guarantee. I said, perfect. And then there's another form I fill out. It's called deposit transfer. So that deposit, A's deposit get transferred to B's deposit, and B become the tenant, and keep on going with the tenancy. So signature right here, the straightforward signature of landlord, date, tenants, and then tenants 1 or 2. Okay. And yeah, the rest we have gone through here: landlord's agent, representative, tenants, emergency contact, and voila. So that's done. It's actually pretty straightforward. And I know that we have, I want to talk about a security deposit now.
Sorry, Lee, before we go to security deposit, I just have a question. I think I remember one of my clients once shared something with me. So she was kicked out of her apartment without notice. And then she didn't know what to do. And again, being a newcomer woman, you know, she didn't know what to do. So when she reached out, I was like, okay, well, we have to try this. And I wasn't sure. For the benefit of other newcomers who are listening right now, if anyone gets kicked out of their apartment, you know, before the end of their lease, where should they go to seek redress?
That will be sending information to SND, and then I rent snd.ca, because that will be tenancy tribunal to handle. Oh, there's another thing. Did your friend pay security deposit?
I don't recall, but what if she paid? Does that matter?
Yes, I do think so, because the tenancy tribunal cannot open a file if this person, technically they cannot open a file, it's my understanding. If if the tenant did not pay deposit.
Oh, I see.
Because
So
the
that's another
deposit is the-
benefit. So that's another
Yeah.
benefit of opening that account at the time of leasing an apartment, just in case there's any dispute.
Right, the deposit is there for tenancy tribunal to open a file, protect the tenants and also landlord.
Oh, I see.
So otherwise they wouldn't have a record. And I shouldn't say if that landlord decided not to collect the tenant the deposit. Well, either that person paid a deposit or not. To me, I still think that the tenancy tribunal could have their hands on the file. I just don't know how long. And I was told by tenancy tribunal, deposit is the one important point that can be vital and for them to open up a file. And so in most cases, and those landlords will ask for deposit. There's seldom cases that landlord do not. I don't really hear anyone don't ask for deposit. So once you have this deposit, which is the next, that's why next form I wanted to show people. Once you fill out that deposit, the landlord could collect the deposit on your behalf, but then they have to submit it to the Service New Brunswick people right here. And then once they
You're now on mute. It seems every time you share, it automatically mutes you. Yeah.
So this is a form of a deposit remittance. And then every time, while being a good landlord, I collect the deposit from my tenants, and I go to Service New Brunswick. I think they already know my face. My gosh! And then and put the remittance through, and then pay with my card. So that deposit is paid. And once it's paid, they put it in a file according to the name on the deposit. And so they will generate a standard letter in the mail and send it to both tenants, also the landlord, 2 copies, right? And telling you that your deposit has already been set in Service New Brunswick. That is the form you received in the letter. You needed to keep it in your own file. And you need to keep a picture of this as well, because you want to always keep a paper trail. So right here, if you look at, I will enlarge this.
Can you just make it bigger? Thank you.
So here you have a landlord's name and address, right? And then you have a identification of the place, making sure your name is spelled right. It's very important. And how many people are here? How many people are in that property? And your starting of the date, starting the lease, and then your monthly rent. So the deposit, again, how much is the deposit? In this case, it's $13.50, right? You see, it's this way. Of course, here never had e-transfer. I always put in cash. E-transfer is like a cash. And then I use my hand, right? E-transfer, but they don't have that available. And then it's a signature and then the date. So this is the signature of the landlord, but then making sure you've seen the landlord signing this. They should have signed this at a time when they were signing the lease with you or collecting deposit with you, or give you a copy of this. If there are disputes, this is a place you go, and they do answer emails. So send emails instead of telephone calls. Telephone calls with no trace. Send emails, they will have to reply. So that will be irent@snb.ca. For information on Residential Tenancy Tribunal and our program. So that's the email that you need to use. Now, yes?
When you register a deposit, also the tenant should, in the mail, like snail mail, should get a certificate of deposit receipt to confirm that the landlord has registered the deposit. If they do not get one, within 3 months, I would suggest that they contact the rentalsman or the tribunal to confirm that they do have it, and if not, to file a complaint against the landlord if it's not registered, because then that means they just have their money in their own bank account and it's not legal.
Absolutely, and then that's the normal practice I would do. As soon as I paid at a Service New Brunswick, and they generate a slip of a receipt, I attach that receipt with this paper, I snap a photo, send it to my tenant through text message or whatever. But you should, if the landlord has told you they remit this amount, you should get a letter in the mail, standard message, email, a big letter, and with your name on it, saying you made this deposit at a tenancy tribunal for how much. If you have two people who are renting who are sharing the cost of the deposit, it will actually list Christine made $750, Li Song made $750 as they have a joint tenancy. You should get this mail within 2 to 4 weeks, let's say. If you didn't, then there's something not right. Yeah, so that's a good one. And so now another thing I want to talk about is how to get your deposit back. Now it's still the best way, and then to get your deposit back through this smb.ca iRent, and then you can claim your deposit from there. I was told that's easiest way, and as a tenant to do. But of course, and the landlord will get a notice that your tenant has claimed the deposit, and the landlord will say, well, the tenant damaged here and there, so then they become a dispute. But if the landlord is okay to release the deposit, then deposit's released, and then back to the tenant. Because in the case, the tenant could have moved to another province, another property, and as a tenant, you needed to state it clearly which property you want to actually Service New Brunswick to write that check to you. Again, your name spelling is very, very important. Spelling correctly so you can deposit the check. I guess we're right on time today, but that's today.
Thank you so much, Lee. I know we're out of time, but I just wanted to, for the benefit of those who joined later, I don't know if anyone has any burning question to Lee. At least if you can stay for another 5-7 minutes, at least we want to use the opportunity to get some questions from anyone who does. If not, we'll move on to the next thing. So any questions from the classrooms or anyone on the platform?
Comment is okay as well. So
yeah, questions, comments, suggestions. Yeah,
we're all learning right here, and then but if you know there are challenges, you can always come to Prude and then speak with us if afterwards. I know group sessions sometimes it's hard to talk about it, but there are many good landlords, good people. It's just, yeah, Michael.
Good day. Thank you very much, Lee, for this presentation. And Christine, thank you so much. Well done. A quick one, Lee. My question goes this way. I joined, I think, like 15 minutes after the program started. I'm not sure if you mentioned anything about this question I want to ask. Apologies if I'm taking you back. My question to you, Lee, is that let's say, for example, in an apartment of where you have 3 residents, right? And the rents were shared among the 3. They were, and 3 of them were given lease agreements individually. If peradventure any one of them defaults in any way, or maybe pays late or what have you, does that have any effects on any of the other 2 that did not default? That's my first question. Then the second question is, what are the chances when you default? What are the effects on your credit history? Those are the 2 questions I want to ask. Thank you.
Good questions. Yeah.
Okay, I'll go answer the second question. Credit history. Normally, this is not linked with your credit history. However, if you're so late, if well, in commercial case or in mostly not in residential case, never ever and never heard about it. But then they might go after they won't access to credit bureau, but commercial cases, they could go through the process and then chase after the money. I haven't heard of residential that has any link with credit history, but any audience from here knows that can help, but not in residential case in my experiences with your credit history. Commercial, yes. Lease agreement. So is this a boarding house that you signed the room? Like, because my understanding, your question would be, you have 3 separate lease agreements, right?
For example, a 3-bedroom flat, 3 students sharing a 3-bedroom apartment, and they all have individual lease agreements.
Right, so that will be that's pure individuals, right? So ABC student and then C is acting up, then that's a C's problem. I'll just deal with the C. It's completely different. C is completely different than A and B. However, for example, I have a 3-bedroom apartment. There's a 3, good tenants are there, but I only they rent as a whole together. I don't like a board with just one and one. That's very complicated. But I deal with one person. However, on the lease it has 3 people's names, and this is the one. If it's 3 different leases, then it's 3 different leases. That shouldn't be. If there's something wrong with A, it shouldn't affect the B and C. You could be totally different strangers.
But if it's in
Okay,
one person's name, okay?
okay, thank you, Lee. What made me ask this question is this. Now, if out of the 3, okay, one of them is not that it defaulted, but banking transactions, cause a delay in payments, right? 2 days after, they then write to the apartment, giving quick notice to the all 3 to evacuate the house. Is that done? Is that the right thing to do?
You could get a letter. Yes, the landlord can, and give a letter of notice if you're late on payment. So, but I mean, common sense. I think you're dealing with a big rental property management, right? Companies. If it's a owner are locally owned and operated like me, I will just say, hey, Michael, like, what's up? Like, what's going on? How come you're late? Or I probably won't even notice because I'm too busy. And then but if it's a big rental property management property management company, they probably automatically generate. If they don't get to the money deposit on time, just say, because landlord, they operate in a way it's like automatic generation. So if the payment is not in place, they automatically send out a letter in the mail that that could happen. Try not to be late on the payment, because it's really timing. Like in here, people do get things, but if you do have you need to talk to the landlord, say, hey, you know what, and then take a Canada home for rent. Hey, I'm going to be probably late for 2 days. I just want to give you a heads up. And then my money is in a transaction, and so you keep a note, they keep a note in the email. Yeah, it has to be reasonable. Yeah.
All right.
Mhm.
Micah, does that answer your questions?
Yes, it does. Thank you very much.
Awesome. Do you have any other questions? Amy, do you have any comments to add to Michael's? You okay with that?
If they have 3 separate leases and not like all of them on one lease, if there's only one person late, I don't feel like they can kick the 3 of them out. It would just be the one late person. 'Cause they're
Correct.
paying.
Right, because it's totally separate, right? It's
Yeah,
three
That doesn't
totally
make any sense.
doesn't make sense. You cannot. Yeah, don't be scared. It's individuals.
No, I
So-
would, if you have further questions, I would actually contact the rentals themselves to get like a proper answer, because I own a property management company and Lee owns properties. So we can only tell you to our knowledge. So your best resource would probably be the rentalsman.
Right.
All right,
And
Michael,
just
now
one
you
other
know you're
thing.
right.
Yeah, go ahead, Amy.
One other thing, you mentioned about getting furniture and stuff. I would just like to say, be careful where you're getting your furniture. If you're
Mm.
getting secondhand, because there are bed bugs and other cockroaches and things that you don't want in your house. So my suggestion would be is do not get it off Facebook Marketplace or anywhere to that
Oh.
effect, unless you own a steam cleaner that you can steam your furniture. Your landlord will not pay to get rid of bed bugs that you brought into the house or building or whatnot. So I would stay clear of, like in Moncton, there's a place called Enviro Plus. They take used furniture from your house. They steam clean it. They do all the things. We donate it and they resell it and the money goes back into the community. So there's
Yeah.
places like that in Moncton. Then I'm sure there's some in St. John that do something similar.
Oh, yeah.
Just to be
Yeah.
careful about where you're getting your things, because you don't want to wake up the next day and be like, I'll itch you and stuff because you got some bed bugs.
Absolutely. And then in St. John, that will be Habitat for Humanity, and that will be first one I recommend on Rossi Avenue. In most cases, you do not want a secondhand bed frame mattresses. And then sofa is something fabric that's really, really tricky. So carpet, I don't know. And then so, yeah, it'd be very tricky. That's a good point, definitely, Amy.
Thank you so much.
Mhm.
Okay, I think this is a good time to just wrap this up. But before we do, I just wanted Amy to introduce herself and the business. For those of you who know her, she's based in Moncton, like you heard, and she runs a property company. I met her during the last conference in Moncton, and she's like an amazing person to connect. So I'm also happy to see her on this in this session today. So Amy, just say hi to everyone and thanks for joining.
Hi, everybody. Yeah, like she said, I'm in Moncton. I've been in property management now for almost 10 years. And I recently opened my own company in June of last year. So it's been very enlightening to become your own employer and to do things with your heart and not the way that some companies run.
Especially property management.
Yeah, it's super nice, and I like to get involved with the newcomers because if you need to have somebody that you can trust when you first come.
Yes.
So it's my passion.
Thank you, Amy. For those of you who did not know, she just doesn't rent apartments to them. She actually takes them shopping. She takes them out and kind of like gives them guided tours in the city as well, just to make her clients super comfortable. You know, I think that's an amazing thing, especially for newcomers and international students. These are mostly her client base. So, and I was really impressed with what she does with her business. So thank you so very much, Amy. And
You're welcome. I love it.
Awesome. So Lee, again, I just want to say thank you so much for taking time out of your busy schedule to come share this very important message with all of us. I have some questions, but I can't even begin to read them out because I don't want to keep everyone here. It's past our lunch hour for most people who work, but again, I respect everyone's time, but I want to thank you so very much for this opportunity. Thank you so much for sharing your wisdom, knowledge, and all of that with us. It's good to always learn, especially for our newcomer community, because there's always something we want to know, but we don't always get the right people to give us the right answers, and then we get into trouble. Sometimes we learn when we're already in trouble. So, but most of these are just helping us get kind of like proactive measures so that we can stay clear of problems and all that. So thank you so very much. Really appreciate your time. And to everyone who joined, thank you so very much for spending your lunch hour with us. Really appreciate your time. And we hope that you can join us again on Wednesday, where we'll be having the last session for the first quarter. So Lee, thank you again. And thank you, everyone.
Thank you, everyone. It's good to meet you, Amy, and everyone.
I'll connect you guys just in case you want to. Okay? An email. Bye. Enjoy the rest of the afternoon, everyone. Bye, classrooms. Yeah. Stop recording.